The Atlantic Ocean, a vast expanse of water, became something far more sinister in the darkest hours of World War II. It was a graveyard for Allied ships, for vital supplies, and for the hopes of a world fighting for its very survival. From the moment war erupted, the U-boat wolf packs of Admiral Dönitz carved a path of destruction across the vital sea lanes, threatening to strangle the Allied war effort before it could even begin. Each torpedo strike wasn't just a loss of cargo, it was a blow to the very heart of Allied resistance, a grim testament to the overwhelming power of the Nazi blockade. The situation was beyond dire. Britain, an island nation, depended entirely on these convoys for food, fuel, and the raw materials to sustain its war industries. Without a constant flow of supplies, the nation would starve, its factories would grind to a halt, and its capacity to stand against the Nazi war machine would crumble. Across the Channel, the prospect of an American entry into the war and the subsequent need to transport millions of tons of equipment and men seemed an impossible dream if the Atlantic remained a U-boat hunting ground. The problem was stark. Ships were being sunk far faster than they could ever be replaced. In the brutal mathematics of attrition, the Allies were losing. Shipyards, working at a frenzied pace, simply could not keep up with the relentless pace of destruction. Traditional shipbuilding methods, honed over centuries, were too slow, too labor-intensive, and too expensive to counter the efficiency of the German submarine fleet. The deficit in tonnage grew with terrifying speed, pushing the Allies to the brink of catastrophe. Without a radical change, without an unprecedented solution, the war in Europe might very well be lost before a single soldier could land on its shores. Desperation began to set in. Military strategists and industrial titans alike grappled with the insurmountable challenge. How do you conjure ships out of thin air? How do you reverse a tide of destruction that seemed to defy all logic and engineering? The scale of the crisis demanded not just innovation, but a revolution in thought, a complete reimagining of what was possible. It needed a mind unburdened by conventional wisdom, someone willing to challenge every established norm. And then a whisper began to circulate, a rumor of an impossible solution, a secret trick conceived not by admirals or generals, but by a civilian. This wasn't a new weapon or a tactical maneuver, but an industrial marvel, a radical departure from everything known about maritime construction. It was a method so audacious, so seemingly impossible, that it promised to make ships appear from nowhere, to break the Nazi blockade, and to turn the tide of the greatest conflict humanity had ever known. This civilian's genius didn't just build ships, it built hope. It was a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the sheer will to survive against impossible odds. It would be the story of how the Liberty ships were born. The man behind this audacious vision was not a seasoned shipbuilder, nor a naval architect steeped in centuries of maritime tradition. He was Henry J. Kaiser, an industrialist known for building roads, dams, and bridges, projects of immense scale and complexity, but land-based. Kaiser looked at the problem of shipbuilding not through the lens of a craftsman meticulously joining plates with rivets, but through the eyes of an engineer accustomed to mass production, to breaking down gargantuan tasks into repeatable, parallel processes. His secret trick was deceptively simple, yet utterly revolutionary: prefabrication. Instead of constructing a ship piece by piece on a single slipway, Kaiser proposed building large sections of a ship simultaneously, often miles away from the shipyard itself. These massive components, a ship's bow, stern, hull sections, deck houses, would then be transported to the yard, hoisted into place, and rapidly joined together. This wasn't just an incremental improvement, it was a complete paradigm shift, akin to applying Henry Ford's assembly line principles to ocean-going vessels. The traditional method relied heavily on highly skilled riveters, a bottleneck in production. Kaiser's innovation minimized riveting, replacing it with electric arc welding. Welding was faster, stronger, and crucially, required less highly specialized labor. It meant that a ship could be built not by a few master craftsmen, but by hundreds of workers, each performing a simpler, repetitive task. The implications were staggering. If a ship traditionally took months, even a year to construct, Kaiser envisioned weeks. The sheer scale of the U-boat onslaught demanded nothing less. But such a radical departure from established norms met with immediate and fierce resistance. The old guard, the veterans of the shipbuilding industry, scoffed. They argued that welded ships were brittle, prone to breaking apart in rough seas. They insisted that the intricate art of shipbuilding could not be reduced to an assembly line. Naval strategists, accustomed to the slow, deliberate pace of traditional construction, found the idea of churning out ships like automobiles almost fantastical, an impossible dream. Yet the stark reality of the Atlantic War provided an undeniable counter-argument to every skeptic. Every day brought news of more sunken tonnage, more lost lives, more dwindling supplies. The British, facing starvation and industrial collapse, were desperate. The Americans, preparing for what they knew would be an inevitable entry into the conflict, understood that a war could not be fought across an ocean that was a graveyard. The luxury of adhering to traditional methods had vanished. The sheer volume of losses demanded a solution that was not merely faster, but exponentially faster. Kaiser's proposal, once dismissed as lunacy, began to be viewed as the only conceivable lifeline. His vision wasn't just about building a single ship quickly. It was about creating an industrial ecosystem capable of producing an entire fleet. It meant designing a standardized cargo vessel, a workhorse that could be replicated endlessly, without complex modifications. This standardized design became known as the emergency cargo ship, later affectionately dubbed the Liberty ship. Its design was simple, functional, and above all, optimized for rapid mass production. No frills, no unnecessary complexities, just pure, unadulterated cargo-carrying capacity. The initial contracts were tentative, born more out of desperation than conviction. But Kaiser, with his characteristic audacity and relentless drive, was ready. He promised not just to build ships, but to redefine what was possible in maritime construction. He vowed to deliver vessels at a speed and on a scale previously unimaginable, to turn the tide against the U-boat menace, and to literally make ships appear from nowhere. This wasn't merely an industrial challenge, it was a race against time, a battle of ingenuity against attrition, and the stakes were nothing less than the fate of the free world. The stage was set for an industrial miracle, a testament to the power of a single civilian's secret trick to shatter the Nazi blockade and breathe new life into the Allied war effort. The audacious vision of Henry J. Kaiser demanded not just a new method of shipbuilding, but an entirely new industrial ecosystem, built at a speed that mirrored the urgency of the war itself. His first challenge was infrastructure. Existing shipyards were bound by traditional layouts and limitations. Kaiser needed space, immense space, and he needed it now. He acquired vast tracts of undeveloped land, often marshy and unforgiving, on the west coast of the United States. Where others saw swamps, Kaiser saw potential, a blank canvas upon which to paint his industrial masterpiece. These new shipyards, like those in Richmond, California, were not merely expanded facilities. They were purpose-built marvels of wartime engineering. Construction crews worked around the clock, erecting massive gantry cranes, fabricating plants, and assembly lines that stretched for miles. The scale was staggering. Hundreds of thousands of tons of steel, millions of cubic yards of concrete, transformed barren landscapes into pulsating hubs of production in a matter of months. It was a logistical triumph, a testament to Kaiser's ability to mobilize resources and manpower on an unprecedented scale. But even with the most advanced facilities, ships could not build themselves. Kaiser needed an army of workers, an industrial workforce that simply did not exist in the numbers required. Traditional shipbuilders were scarce, their ranks thinned by the demands of the military and other war industries. Kaiser's solution was as radical as his shipbuilding method. He would train an entirely new generation of workers, many with no prior experience in heavy industry. Thousands of men and women, often drawn from agricultural communities or service industries, poured into the burgeoning shipyards. African Americans, often denied opportunities in other sectors, found employment and purpose in Kaiser's yards. Women, stepping into roles traditionally held by men, became welders, crane operators, and fabricators, proving their capabilities in a crucible of national need. This diverse workforce was trained with astonishing speed. Kaiser's simplified, standardized processes, particularly electric arc welding, meant that complex tasks could be broken down into simpler, repeatable steps. A skilled riveter might take years to master their craft. A welder, focusing on specific joints, could be proficient in weeks. Intensive, short-term training programs churned out thousands of welders, burners, and crane operators, creating a human assembly line that mirrored the mechanical one. This democratization of labor was a critical element of the secret trick, enabling the exponential increase in output. Yet, the resistance from traditionalists persisted, a constant drumbeat of doubt against the roar of progress. Concerns about the integrity of welded hulls were not entirely unfounded. Early welded ships, particularly in the unforgiving conditions of the North Atlantic, did experience structural failures, some catastrophic. These incidents, though relatively few compared to the total number of ships produced, fueled the skepticism. Naval architects and engineers, steeped in the proven methods of riveting, pointed to these failures as proof that Kaiser's approach was flawed, a dangerous shortcut. Kaiser, however, was undeterred. He embraced the failures as learning opportunities, quickly implementing design modifications and improved welding techniques. Metallurgists and engineers worked tirelessly to understand the stresses on welded plates, refining procedures and materials. The Liberty ship design itself was continually improved, a testament to an iterative process driven by wartime necessity. Every crack, every structural anomaly was meticulously analyzed, leading to stronger, more resilient vessels. The true test, however, lay in production. The world watched, some with hope, others with outright disbelief, as the first Liberty ships began to take shape at an unbelievable pace. The SS Patrick Henry, the first Liberty ship launched from Kaiser's Richmond No. 1 yard, slid into the water a mere 244 days after its keel was laid. This was already a dramatic improvement over traditional methods, but Kaiser was just getting started. He pushed his teams harder, streamlining every single process, from the delivery of steel plates to the installation of engines. The yards became a symphony of efficiency, a relentless ballet of cranes, welders, and fitters. Then came the seemingly impossible. In September 1942, the SS Robert Peary, a Liberty ship built at Kaiser's Oregon Shipbuilding Corporation, was launched an astonishing 4 days and 15 hours after its keel was laid. This wasn't merely fast, it was a revolution. The previous record for a ship of similar size was months. Kaiser had smashed it, not by days or weeks, but by orders of magnitude. The secret trick was no longer a theory. It was a tangible, undeniable reality. A ship had literally appeared from nowhere, or so it seemed to the astonished world, in less time than it took to cross the Atlantic. The implications were earth-shattering. The launch of the SS Robert Peary wasn't just a shipbuilding record. It was a psychological weapon, a devastating blow to Axis morale and an immeasurable boost to Allied spirits. The news, carefully disseminated, spread like wildfire across the war-torn world. 4 days and 15 hours from keel to launch. It seemed impossible, a feat of industrial magic that defied all logic. For the beleaguered Allies, it was a sudden, blinding flash of hope. For Admiral Dönitz and his U-boat commanders, it was the first whisper of a nightmare, the chilling realization that their relentless campaign of attrition was about to be undone by an industrial revolution. This single event, however sensational, was merely the tip of the iceberg. Kaiser's yards and others that quickly adopted his revolutionary methods began to churn out Liberty ships with a speed that escalated beyond even the most optimistic projections. The average construction time for a Liberty ship plummeted from months to weeks, and then routinely to mere days. The rhythm of the shipyards became a relentless, powerful pulse, each vessel sliding down the ways a testament to human will and ingenuity. The secret trick of prefabrication and welding had unlocked an industrial leviathan, capable of producing ships faster than the U-boats could sink them. The strategic implications were nothing short of profound. For years, the Allies had been fighting a losing battle of numbers. Every U-boat patrol meant a fresh wave of attacks, every convoy a gamble against overwhelming odds. The deficit in tonnage had threatened to cripple Britain and starve its war machine into submission. But now, the equation was dramatically reversing. Instead of a dwindling supply of merchant vessels, the Atlantic was being flooded with a seemingly endless stream of new ships. The Liberty ships, though not fast or glamorous, were robust, reliable workhorses, designed for one purpose: to carry vital cargo, and carry cargo they did. Millions of tons of materiel, tanks, aircraft, ammunition, fuel, food, medical supplies, began to flow across the Atlantic in unprecedented quantities. These ships sustained Britain, allowing it not just to survive, but to build up the resources necessary for a counter-offensive. They supplied the Allied forces fighting in North Africa and Italy. Crucially, they laid the logistical groundwork for the ultimate invasion of Fortress Europe, D-Day, transforming the concept of a cross-channel invasion from a pipe dream into a tangible plan. Without the Liberty ships, the sheer volume of supplies required for such an undertaking would have been utterly impossible to transport. The impact on the U-boat war was direct and devastating for the Germans. Dönitz's wolf packs, once the undisputed predators of the Atlantic, found themselves facing a new reality. Sinking a few ships from a convoy of 50 or more, only to see dozens more appear on the horizon within weeks, was demoralizing. The sheer numerical superiority of the Allied merchant fleet, bolstered by the Liberty ships, meant that even with successful attacks, the overall tonnage reaching Allied ports continued to rise. The secret trick had effectively broken the Nazi blockade, not by defeating every U-boat, but by simply overwhelming the enemy's capacity for destruction. Furthermore, the abundance of Liberty ships allowed for crucial changes in convoy strategy. Larger convoys, while presenting a bigger target, could also be more heavily defended, making them harder and more costly for U-boats to attack. The ability to quickly replace losses also meant that Allied commanders could take greater risks, maintaining vital supply lines even in the face of persistent threats. The U-boat crews, once confident in their ability to cripple Allied shipping, began to report increasingly frustrating patrols, their targets seemingly replaced as fast as they were sunk. The psychological toll on the U-boat arm was immense, as they faced an enemy that appeared to possess an inexhaustible supply of ships. The resilience of the Liberty ships themselves became legendary. Often sailing alone or in small, unprotected convoys in the early days, they endured torpedo attacks, aerial bombardments, and the brutal storms of the Atlantic. Many were damaged, some severely, but their simple welded construction often meant they could be patched up quickly and sent back to sea, a testament to their utilitarian design. They were not elegant vessels, but they were tough, dependable, and crucially, they were plentiful. This relentless output was more than just an industrial achievement. It was a triumph of human organization and spirit. The diverse workforce, many of whom had never seen the ocean before, toiled day and night, driven by a profound sense of purpose. They understood the stakes, recognizing that every rivet, every weld, every completed section brought the world closer to victory. The shipyards hummed with a furious energy, a microcosm of a nation mobilized for total war, all orchestrated by the audacious vision of a civilian who dared to challenge centuries of shipbuilding tradition. The Liberty ships truly did appear from nowhere, transforming the Atlantic from a graveyard into a highway of hope, and in doing so, they decisively turned the tide of the Battle of the Atlantic, shattering the Nazi blockade and paving the way for Allied victory. The sheer scale of the Liberty ship program, once fully operational, transcended mere industrial output. It became a force of nature. From the initial record-shattering launch of the SS Robert Peary, the pace only accelerated. Shipyards across America, galvanized by Kaiser's methods and the urgent call of war, began to launch vessels with a regularity that astounded the world. What began as a desperate gamble evolved into an unstoppable torrent of steel and purpose. By the war's end, over 2,700 Liberty ships had been built, a number so staggering it almost defies comprehension. This was not just a handful of vessels, it was an entire armada, conjured from the ingenuity of a civilian and the collective will of a nation. These ships, often dubbed ugly ducklings for their utilitarian design and lack of aesthetic flair, were nonetheless beautiful in their function. They were the unsung heroes of the global supply chain, tirelessly crisscrossing the world's oceans, their holds brimming with the sinews of war. From the freezing convoys of the North Atlantic to the sweltering heat of the Pacific, from the shores of North Africa to the beaches of Normandy, Liberty ships delivered. They carried everything: tanks for Patton's Third Army, aircraft for the RAF, ammunition for the Red Army, food for a beleaguered Britain, and the very fuel that powered the Allied war machine. Without their relentless service, every major Allied offensive, every strategic victory would have been impossible. But behind every Liberty ship, there were not just the thousands who built them, but the dozens who sailed them. These were the merchant mariners, often civilians themselves, who faced the same dangers as their military counterparts, yet often without the same recognition. They were the men and women who navigated the U-boat-infested waters, braved aerial attacks, dodged mines, and endured the savage storms of the Atlantic and Pacific. Their ships, while resilient, were not warships. They carried no heavy armament, their defenses limited, their speed often agonizingly slow. Each voyage was a perilous gamble, a testament to their unwavering courage and dedication. Thousands of merchant mariners perished in the line of duty, their sacrifices as vital to victory as any soldier, sailor, or airman. The Liberty ships became a symbol of American industrial might, a tangible manifestation of a nation fully mobilized for total war. Their rapid production demonstrated a capacity for innovation and scale that astonished both allies and enemies. It shattered the Axis belief that the Allies could be starved into submission, proving that human ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable blockade. This secret trick didn't just break the Nazi chokehold on the Atlantic, it fundamentally reshaped global logistics, setting new precedents for industrial production and supply chain management that would echo long after the war concluded. Their impact extended far beyond the immediate needs of wartime transport. The methods pioneered by Kaiser and his teams, particularly large-scale prefabrication and electric arc welding, revolutionized not just shipbuilding, but heavy industry as a whole. The lessons learned in the frantic pace of wartime production laid the groundwork for post-war industrial expansion and efficiency. The highly skilled workforce, trained in these new techniques, formed a vital pool of talent that contributed to America's economic boom in the decades that followed. The Liberty ship program was a crucible of innovation. forging not just ships, but a new understanding of what was industrially possible. Even after the war, the Liberty ships continued their service. Many were sold to private shipping companies, helping to rebuild global trade in a shattered world. They carried relief supplies to devastated nations, transported goods to burgeoning economies, and continued their workhorse duties for years, sometimes even decades. Their simple, robust design made them adaptable and economical to operate. They may have been born of desperation, but their legacy was one of enduring utility, a testament to the foresight of their design and the revolutionary methods of their construction. The ugly ducklings proved to be swans in disguise, not for their grace, but for their indispensable role in saving the world and then helping to rebuild it. The relentless output of Liberty ships was a monumental achievement of industry, but it was on the high seas, in the face of an enemy determined to sever the Allied lifeline, that their true legend was forged. These vessels, and the brave men and women who crewed them, sailed into the jaws of the U-boat wolfpacks, enduring unimaginable hardships and facing death with every mile. Life aboard a Liberty ship was a constant dance with danger. The ships themselves were functional, designed for utility over comfort or speed. They were often packed to the brim with vital cargo, sometimes dangerously overloaded, making them sluggish and vulnerable targets. The merchant mariners, a diverse mix of ages, backgrounds and nationalities, were civilians thrust into the brutal reality of total war. They weren't soldiers or sailors in uniform, yet their casualty rate was, at times, higher than that of the armed services. Their ships, equipped with minimal defensive armaments, often just a few deck guns manned by naval armed guard crews, were designed to carry, not to fight. Their only real defense was often the vastness of the ocean, the protection of a convoy, or the sheer luck of avoiding detection. But luck was a fickle companion in the Atlantic. The threat was omnipresent. From the moment a Liberty ship left port, the shadow of the U-boat loomed. Torpedoes could strike without warning, turning a calm sea into a fiery inferno in an instant. Beyond the U-boat menace, there were the relentless storms of the North Atlantic, capable of tearing ships apart, and the ever-present danger of mines laid by enemy forces. Even aerial attacks, particularly in coastal waters or during convoys to the Soviet Union, added another layer of terror. The cold, the isolation, the constant fear of the unknown, these were the daily companions of the merchant mariners. Many ships disappeared without a trace, their crews lost to the depths, leaving behind no wreckage, only silence. Yet they continued to sail. The sheer volume of Liberty ships, appearing seemingly from nowhere, allowed the Allies to absorb these losses and still maintain the vital flow of supplies. Each new Liberty ship launched was another artery for the Allied war effort, pumping lifeblood into the global conflict. They were the unsung heroes of countless campaigns. Without the steady stream of fuel, tanks and aircraft delivered by these workhorses, the Allied invasion of North Africa, Operation Torch, would have been impossible. The vast logistical challenges of landing hundreds of thousands of men and their equipment across thousands of miles of ocean were met, ship by the humble Liberty. Similarly, the perilous convoys to Murmansk and Archangel, braving Arctic gales and relentless German air and submarine attacks, relied heavily on Liberty ships. These vessels carried crucial supplies to the Soviet Union, a lifeline that helped sustain the Eastern Front and tie up immense German resources. The survival of these convoys, often at horrific cost, was a testament to the resilience of the ships and the indomitable spirit of their crews, understanding that every ton delivered was a blow against the Nazi war machine. As the war progressed, the Liberty ships became an even more critical component of the Allied strategy. The logistical build-up for D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history, was an undertaking of staggering proportions. Every tank, every jeep, every bullet, every ration, every single piece of equipment needed to support millions of men had to cross the English Channel. The vast majority of this tonnage was carried by Liberty ships, ferrying supplies from American ports to the staging areas in Britain, and then, after the invasion, directly to the beaches and newly captured ports of Normandy. They were the indispensable backbone that allowed the Allied armies to establish and maintain their foothold in fortress Europe. The sheer numbers of Liberty ships fundamentally altered the nature of the U-boat war. Admiral Dönitz's initial strategy relied on attrition, sink ships faster than the Allies could build them, but Kaiser's secret trick shattered that equation. Even as Allied anti-submarine warfare (ASW) technology improved, with better radar, sonar, and long-range aircraft, the psychological impact of the endless stream of Liberty ships was devastating for the U-boat crews. They would sink a few ships, only to find dozens more on the horizon within weeks. The ocean, once their hunting ground, was becoming a highway filled with an inexhaustible supply of targets. It was a war of numbers they could not win, and it was the civilians' ingenuity that delivered the crushing blow. The relentless stream of Liberty ships transformed the Battle of the Atlantic from a desperate struggle for survival into a clear, albeit costly, Allied victory. Admiral Dönitz, once confident in his ability to strangle Britain, watched in dismay as his U-boat commanders reported an ever-increasing flow of targets, seemingly without end. The initial euphoria of sinking convoys gave way to a grim realization. They were fighting an industrial behemoth, not just a naval force. The secret trick had not just built ships, it had built an unshakable confidence within the Allied High Command, allowing them to shift from a defensive posture to a truly offensive one. The sheer volume of shipping meant that vital war material could be stockpiled in unprecedented quantities, enabling the planning and execution of operations that would have been logistical impossibilities just a few years prior. The build-up for the invasion of Italy, for instance, known as Operation Avalanche, required a massive and sustained flow of supplies to the Mediterranean. Without the constant availability of Liberty ships, carrying everything from tanks and artillery to fuel and field hospitals, such a complex campaign would have stalled before it even began. These ships were the silent, tireless arteries of the Allied war machine, ensuring that every front, from the frozen steppes of Russia to the scorching deserts of North Africa, received the sustenance needed to fight. This industrial miracle also had a profound impact on the home front. The stories of ships being built in days, of women and men from all walks of life working shoulder to shoulder in bustling shipyards, became powerful symbols of national unity and purpose. It was a tangible demonstration that American ingenuity and resolve could overcome any obstacle. The secret trick wasn't just a technical innovation. It was a rallying cry, a testament to the collective power of a free people mobilized against tyranny. Every Liberty ship launched was a message of defiance to the Axis powers, a clear signal that their attempts to sever the lifeline to Europe were doomed to fail. The U-boat arm, once the pride of the Kriegsmarine, found its morale steadily eroding. The constant patrols, the brutal conditions, and the ever-present threat of Allied anti-submarine warfare, combined with the demoralizing reality that their successes were immediately nullified by new construction, took a heavy toll. Dönitz's strategic gamble had failed. The wolf packs were still dangerous, still capable of inflicting terrible losses, but they could no longer achieve their primary objective, to cut Britain's lifelines and prevent the build-up of Allied forces for a European invasion. The tide had irrevocably turned in the Battle of the Atlantic, and the Liberty ships were the instrument of that change. The tactical shifts forced upon the U-boats were also significant. As convoys grew larger and more heavily escorted, and as Allied air cover extended further out into the Atlantic, U-boat commanders found it increasingly difficult to operate effectively. They were forced to dive deeper, spend more time submerged, and accept higher risks for fewer rewards. The introduction of escort carriers, providing air support directly within convoys, further complicated their hunting strategies. The sheer number of Liberty ships meant that even if a U-boat managed to sink a few, the vast majority of the convoy would still reach its destination, and the next convoy would be just as large, if not larger. The secret trick also bought in valuable time for Allied scientists and engineers to develop and deploy more advanced anti-submarine technologies. While the Liberty ships provided the numerical superiority, these technological advancements provided the qualitative edge. High-frequency direction finding, HF-DF, known as Huff-Duff, allowed escorts to pinpoint U-boat radio transmissions. Improved radar and sonar systems became more effective at detecting submerged submarines. The development of Hedgehog mortars and Fido acoustic torpedoes offered new ways to attack U-boats. The industrial capacity unleashed by Kaiser's methods created the breathing room necessary for these innovations to mature and be deployed on a scale that truly crippled the U-boat threat. The psychological victory was perhaps as significant as the logistical one. For the Axis powers, the sight of an endless stream of Allied ships appearing as if from nowhere was a profound blow to their propaganda and their strategic calculations. They had underestimated the industrial might and the innovative spirit of the Allies, particularly the Americans. The Liberty ships became a symbol of this underestimation, a tangible manifestation of a foe that could not be starved into submission, a foe that could not be outproduced. The belief that Britain could be brought to its knees by blockade, a cornerstone of Nazi strategy, was utterly shattered. This shift marked the beginning of the end for the German U-boat offensive. While the war at sea would continue to be brutal and costly until the very end, the strategic initiative had passed decisively to the Allies. The flow of men and material across the Atlantic was secured, paving the way for the grand invasions and offensives that would ultimately lead to victory in Europe. The civilians' secret trick had not just broken a blockade, it had fundamentally altered the course of the war, proving that ingenuity, scale, and an unwavering will could overcome even the most formidable of threats. The Liberty ships, those unassuming workhorses, had indeed saved the world, one cargo hold at a time. The success of the Liberty ship program, the relentless surge of these vessels across the Atlantic, transformed the strategic landscape of World War II. With the vital artery to Europe secured, the Allied High Command could now plan and execute operations of a scale previously unimaginable. The logistical nightmares that had plagued earlier campaigns began to recede, replaced by a newfound confidence in the ability to deliver overwhelming force to any theater of war. The secret trick had not merely stemmed the bleeding, it had infused the Allied war machine with a constant, robust supply of lifeblood, empowering them to transition from desperate defense to decisive offense. Following the D-Day landings, the advance through France and into Germany became a monumental logistical challenge. Armies numbering in the millions, constantly on the move, devoured fuel, ammunition, and supplies at an astonishing rate. Ports like Cherbourg, once captured, became crucial hubs, but the sheer volume of material required a continuous, uninterrupted flow from the United States and Britain. Liberty ships, steaming in convoys across the Channel and the Atlantic, were the indispensable carriers in this vast supply chain. They kept Patton's tanks rolling, Montgomery's forces equipped, and every soldier on the front line fed and armed. Without their steady arrival, the Allied push would have faltered, unable to sustain the momentum necessary to break the German resistance. The impact of this industrial triumph resonated far beyond the battlefields of Europe. With the Battle of the Atlantic effectively won, Allied naval resources could be redeployed, freeing up warships and aircraft for other critical fronts, particularly the Pacific theater. The ability to outproduce the enemy on such a colossal scale sent a clear message to the Axis powers. Their industrial capacity was dwarfed, and their attempts to strangle the Allied war effort through attrition were doomed to fail. The Liberty ships became the ultimate symbol of a nation fully mobilized, its factories and shipyards transformed into an unstoppable arsenal of democracy. Henry J. Kaiser's secret trick extended its influence beyond the immediate demands of shipbuilding. The revolutionary methods of prefabrication, modular construction, and assembly line techniques, honed and perfected under the extreme pressures of wartime, became a blueprint for future industrial endeavors. What began as an urgent solution to a dire crisis evolved into a paradigm shift in manufacturing. The principles of efficient, large-scale production demonstrated by the Liberty ship program would go on to revolutionize other heavy industries, proving that complex products could be assembled with unprecedented speed and cost-effectiveness. The shipbuilding miracle was, in essence, a masterclass in modern industrial engineering. On the home front, the Liberty ships became a powerful symbol of national unity and purpose. Millions of Americans, many of them women entering the workforce for the first time, toiled in shipyards and factories, united by the common goal of victory. The stories of ships being built in a matter of days or weeks fueled morale, demonstrating that collective effort and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. The secret trick wasn't just a technical marvel, it was a testament to the resilience of the American spirit, a tangible manifestation of a free people's unwavering commitment to defeating tyranny. Every completed vessel was a beacon of hope, a tangible sign that the tide was turning. Even as the war raged towards its conclusion, the Liberty ships continued their tireless work. They supported the final offensives in Europe, carrying the last vital supplies to the front lines, and then, after VE Day, played a crucial role in the initial stages of post-war relief and reconstruction. Their simple, robust design made them ideal for a world grappling with immense logistical challenges. They transitioned seamlessly from instruments of war to vessels of peace, carrying food, medical supplies, and building materials to devastated nations, helping to mend the fabric of a shattered world. Their utility, born of wartime necessity, proved to be incredibly enduring. The legacy of the Liberty ships and the secret trick endures to this day. It fundamentally redefined what was possible in terms of industrial output and logistical support. The lessons learned in those frantic wartime years reshaped global shipping, supply chain management, and manufacturing processes, laying the foundation for much of the modern industrial world. The idea that a civilian, outside the traditional military-industrial complex, could conceive and implement a solution of such monumental impact remains one of the most compelling aspects of this incredible story. It is a testament to the power of unconventional thinking in times of crisis. The legacy of the Liberty ships, born from Henry J. Kaiser's audacious secret trick, reverberates through history, a testament to human ingenuity under unimaginable pressure. This wasn't merely a tale of shipbuilding, it was a saga of industrial revolution, a paradigm shift that forever altered manufacturing, supply chain logistics, and even the very nature of modern warfare. The principles of modular construction and assembly line efficiency, honed and perfected in the frantic race against time, became the bedrock for countless post-war industries, proving that innovation born of crisis can shape the future far beyond its immediate necessity. The civilian's genius did more than just construct vessels. It forged an unyielding lifeline across the perilous Atlantic. It shattered Admiral Dönitz's U-boat strategy, turning the tide in the Battle of the Atlantic from a desperate struggle for survival into a decisive Allied victory. The seemingly endless parade of Liberty ships, appearing as if from nowhere, broke the Nazi blockade, sustained vital fronts from North Africa to the Eastern Front, and ultimately paved the way for D-Day, and the final push into Germany. These unassuming workhorses, and the brave men and women who built and sailed them, were the unsung heroes who ensured that the arsenal of democracy could reach where it was needed most, defying all odds and proving that sheer will could overcome even the most formidable threats. This industrial miracle instilled a psychological victory as profound as the logistical one. For the Axis, the constant appearance of new ships was a demoralizing symbol of an enemy that could not be starved, could not be outproduced. For the Allies, it was a tangible promise of victory, a constant flow of strength that allowed them to transition from desperate defense to decisive offense. The Liberty ships didn't just carry cargo, they carried hope, they carried defiance, and they carried the world to victory. Their story, often overshadowed by the roar of cannons and the clash of armies, is a foundational legend of World War II, a dramatic account of how a secret trick truly did save the world. What other unsung heroes or forgotten innovations from World War II do you believe deserve a spotlight? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights help us uncover more of these incredible stories. If you found this journey into the heart of wartime ingenuity as compelling as we did, be sure to like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to Legends of War for more incredible stories from the annals of conflict. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode as we continue to uncover the astonishing truths behind the greatest legends of war.